Welcome everyone to another episode of the Wrestling is Cool podcast, the coolest wrestling podcast on the planet. I'm Santi, that's Sancho. We've got a great episode for you today as we are heading down the merry yellow brick road that is Cleveland, Ohio. SummerSlam. Every Clevelandite? What are you? No one cares since LeBron left.
Wow. Your interest of Cleveland dipped to zero. It was honestly before LeBron James, it was Drew Carey and then Major League Baseball, the movie.
Yes. that's the extent of Cleveland. And SummerSlam now, which is shaping up to be a fantastic show thus far. Obviously, we're still a little bit ways removed from SummerSlam, but early gut check. How you feeling about this show so far and how it's coming along?
It is definitely getting it. I love it when we get like a week or two out, because then it finally solidifies. Mm-hmm. You get to see the chemistry. You get to see we're like one or two promos away from making a match worthy to watch, and I feel like that's what we've been getting on Monday Night Raw, especially where like Gunther and Damian. Now that's something you want to watch. CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. Now that's something you want to watch even more. So this is like a great time. It's like, you ever cook cookies, bake those cookies, and you could start finally smelling it?
Sure. Yes. Yeah, it's starting to rise.
Smell. You could smell.
They're all starting to rise.
Oh, rise. If this was during the Vine days, people would put all rise in front of random things, dude.
Oh, man. But yeah, I think SummerSlam is shaping out to be a nice show. Like you said, there's these last 2 weeks, a bunch of the feuds that I was like, I don't know about this, man, are now, like, for me, top of mind. And I think you hit it on the head with Gunther and Damian Priest. I'm sold. I'm in. I want to see what's next. I want to see this go into Bash at Berlin. I want to see this go into Bad Blood. I'm so into this feud. Still don't think they needed to burn the Money in the Bank briefcase. We're not going to go down this path. I said we're not going to go down this path, Sancho. All right, I'm not trying to open up this can of worms again, but it's cool that they added Seth Rollins.
I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it, but I bring it up.
But here's actually, a 45-minute segment on it.
Totally like the Oscar from The Office, bro.
Oh, actually. Oh, God. You just called me Oscar from The Office. Folks, welcome to the Wrestling is Cool podcast. As I've already alluded to, the coolest wrestling podcast on the planet. You could be listening to this episode on Tuesdays if you're a Patreon, but there's a good chance that you're listening to this on Friday or somewhere way down the line after we recorded this. And that's because you're not over on Patreon. You could be getting this episode 3 days early over on patreon.com/SantiZap. Not only do you get the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days early, but we have absolutely jam-packed that Patreon to the brim with extra content and value for you. You get the podcast 3 days early. You get five. I can't do, I was going to do the Booker T thing. You get 5 Wrestling is Cool Match Club watch-alongs that you get to vote on. And this week we continue the SummerSlam bandwagon where you're voting on SummerSlam matches. And you get the Raw reviews, the SmackDown reviews, and sometimes some extra little sprinkles here or there of extra content. So that's at minimum 8 pieces of content every single week on Patreon. It's worth it. Go check it out. Even if it is just for 1 month, the link will be in the description or wherever it is that you can get links on whichever podcast or video service that you might be watching on. But yeah, Patreon's cooking, folks. The Patreon is cooking.
What someone came up to me at an event that I was doing in Boston, Massachusetts, and they said that they actually watch our match club as a way just for something in the background, because we have so much content. They could just put it on right before they go to bed, and our soothing voices with our pristine commentary puts them right to bed.
I have a one-up on that one.
Wow!
I had a
you are Oscar from The Office.
I am one. Yes, I had a guy in my chat yesterday over on Twitch tell me that he was trying to get all, shall we say, rated R with his girlfriend, and they put on a match club, and she was just too into the match club that by the end of it, she's like, "I'm good. I want to go to bed." We ruined this man's attempt at making the next generation, Sancho. Our match club is so good, it's decreasing the human population.
We are the zesty pin brothers. We're not the blockers, okay? which would be a sick tag team name, by the way. The Blockers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What would be the finish, though?
No, we're not. I don't want to go into the finish of the Blockers. We already spend way too much time talking about this. The Zesty Pin Brothers finish. I do not want to talk about the Blockers finish.
The old Tongaloa. You know what I mean? The old, damn.
Bro, Tongaloa, I know he's not even part of the topic here, but like the man's a meme machine. He's an absolute, this is his value to the WWE right now. Because as far as I could tell, he was removed from the tag team match that was supposed to be him and Tama Tonga. It's now Tama Tonga and Jacob Fatu, which I do think is the better pairing. Not in terms of name, the Tongas make way more sense, but in terms of talent for sure. But just the bumps that Tongaloa takes and some of his silly little mistakes that aren't detrimental, but like get magnified and amplified by social media are just comedy gold. Him low blowing Kevin Owens and punching Tama Tonga is a thing of beauty. Him trying to acknowledge the solo Sikoa, everybody doing it all serious, and him being like,
it got gouged in the eye. What are you talking about? He's solid.
It's good, man.
I think they're gonna give him a sick eye patch after they saw House of the Dragon. They're like, we need someone with the eye patch.
Ooh, okay, Sancho. Top eye patch character in fiction.
Sagat.
Who the hell is Sagat?
Street Fighter.
Oh, from Street. Okay, I wasn't even thinking the gaming world. Even though my answer is gaming world, Big Boss, Metal Gear.
Sagat would destroy Big Boss.
Yeah, you don't know that.
I do.
You don't know that. First of all,
but what I do know is the movie version of Sagat from Street Fighter from Jean-Claude Van Damme is the worst. Probably eye patch character. Well, it's the tale of two tapes there.
Bro, it's the 90s curse of movies where technology was good enough to try and take leaps, but not good enough to make those leaps be good.
Yeah.
I would say the early 2000s is even worse because they're like, we found CGI. Let's just ruin everything with CGI.
Well, that's the thing. I remember like actually popping for when in the Street Fighter movie, Ryu did his thing, but it wasn't a fireball. It was just like a flash. It was like a chest punch. Yeah, dude. The amount of cool branding and cool mascots and cool licenses and all this kind of stuff, franchises, were just hampered by the 90s technology. Just think about all the cool stuff that existed that people love and beloved today that are now getting their due justice. Like think about in The Mandalorian, right? When Luke did his thing, right? There's so many different things like that we were robbed from because of the old technology. Yeah,
the 90s is just this funky little era because in the 80s and 70s, their technology was limited, but they peaked at how good they were at using that technology.
Yeah.
Right? Like practical effects. They got just so good at it. Like the shark from Jaws still to this day, I think is still impressive.
70s.
In that 70s, it's still impressive. But then the 90s rolled around, and like I said, yes, technology boomed, but they were in their infancy stages at learning how to use that technology. So like you said, a lot of really cool franchises could have been so much better if done. I don't want to necessarily say if done today, but if done with the expertise of today with the 90s technology.
You remember the movie or the Nickelodeon show Alex Mack?
No.
Remember? You don't remember Alex Mack?
Okay. My childhood was spent in Colombia. Nickelodeon wasn't in Colombia, just to clarify.
It wasn't?
No.
Man, you missed out on all that. Rugrats. All that? Oh, you missed all that, huh?
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah, like Rugrats I didn't get to watch until I came over to the north.
So in Alex Mack, she's basically like the Terminator. She could ooze herself down.
Oh, nice.
And she would, and she was like kind of investigating stuff, but she would use her powers to get in and out of trouble. And that was not that great looking CGI, but imagine if that show came out now. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, it would be. This is a wrestling podcast, by the way. This is just what happens.
Wait, let's bring it to wrestling. Do you think that technology has made wrestling worse, though? Think about it.
Oh.
Social media, the ability to go on the internet. Like, dude, back in the day, in the 70s, you believed everything. everything.
I think it's got its ups and downs.
Sure.
I think that the biggest down is that the concept of wrestling being real, like it's gone. Like that, it will never ever make people believe that it's real. It's out, right? Everyone knows that it's performance
secret.
art,
Yeah.
right? That it's no longer this protected thing. But the benefit is that it's now easier than ever to be a wrestling fan, because one of the things that wrestling is really good at is creating water cooler conversations, making you want to immediately talk about what you just saw. And back in the 90s and 80s, early 2000s even, it was really difficult to immediately be able to express those thoughts with other wrestling fans because you actually had to find them in real life. Now, for better or worse, I feel like you can make the argument, for better or worse, everyone has some kind of megaphone. Some people's megaphones is bigger than others on places like Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, whatever it might be. But at any moment, at any time, if you want to talk about Tongaloa, you could go to the Twitter account. It's Tonga Time. That's right. I know who you are, Tonga Time. And talk about Tongaloa if you want, right? You could just talk about whatever you want about professional wrestling, and you will immediately be connected with a person that wants to talk about the same thing. And I think, again, I'll say it, for better or worse, because it's cultivated a very, very toxic environment in some areas. But that's also, I think it's also fair to say that's just the vocal minority. Very, very vocal minority, I shall say. But for the most part, I think I would say that's a good thing. What about you? Any other aspects of technology that have hindered wrestling?
I know the benefit is it's easier, it's accessible. Like before in the past, if you missed Monday Night Raw, you just missed it, brother. That's it. There's no way. I mean, sure, you could tape it, when DVRs come around. And what was that, TiVo? God, when TiVo came around, there was some good stuff started to happen. But back in the day, if you missed a pay-per-view or Monday Night Raw, you had to get someone with the tape. Like someone had to have the tape for you to watch it. And I know that was big back in the day in the 70s and 80s, tape trading and things of that sort. So if you wanted to watch so-and-so Lex Luger have a match, you would have to find the actual person who owned the tape for it. So that's definitely a benefit of the new streaming services and new technology. In the instant, you could go back into old school wrestling, where you could go to SummerSlam 92 if you wanted to. But I think the hardest thing that is interesting for wrestling fans is we see it every day, where the Wyatt Six have a huge debut and it's spooky and it's fun. And then immediately that night, a fan sees them at Whataburger and they take a picture. And then, it's just that juxtaposition of how it was done in the old days, where, even The Undertaker didn't even do all those fun things and was very, even where, I'm sorry, my mind's scatterbrained, but even like the heels and faces couldn't be seen in the same bus together. Like that kind of stuff is so interesting, how wrestling norms are now being challenged by social media. And I think at this point, I think you're correct. We now understand it is an art. It is a exhibition of sports athleticism in a dramatic way. And we now enjoy when social media blends in with the kayfabe fun. But I think that the greatest detriment to technology in wrestling is I think you nailed it, is the kind of the toxicity or the grinding between the two different worlds. And yeah, some people get a voice and they shouldn't get a voice. But at the same time, you just got to foster your community. And I think that's the hardest part when it boils down to everything, no matter what platform you have. And ultimately, we try our best here at Wrestling is Cool to be cool with everybody, everybody has to be a little Carlitos and Carlitas out here,
It's interesting because you can come up with awesome examples of where social media just makes wrestling so much better. Like, for example, and again, better or for worse, access to wrestlers. How many times have you seen on Twitter Cody Rhodes seeing a picture of a fan at a hospital or something, watching Cody Rhodes, or with a Cody Rhodes poster, and Cody's like, I'm sending you to WrestleMania. Hey, pack your bags. You're coming to the next episode of Monday Night Raw whenever we're in your town. But then for every one of those, sometimes you get the example of the Liv Morgan stalker. Have you seen that?
Yeah, I've seen that, and the scam as well, where people get scammed out of thousands and thousands of dollars when they think that they're helping Liv Morgan. Some crazy stuff out there, brother.
Man, I have a really hard time understanding how people fall for that.
It's
But
easy, man. It's easy when you're. I mean, it's essentially when those things happen. It's when people prey on vulnerable people, man,
yes.
and it is an unfortunate thing. I think any kind of vehicle like that, when you boil it down to, is just vulnerable people being exploited, and that's why we always, you said it a couple podcasts ago. You just understand that these professional wrestlers don't need your financial help.
Yeah,
Like,
they're caked in money, y'all. they don't need your $50 via PayPal or Cash App.
yeah, but I do agree with you that it is cool when wrestlers use it for good and they use it to propel what they're doing in the ring. I think, for example, just to keep up with Liv Morgan, I think what Liv Morgan's done outside of the ring with the social media has amplified the story in the ring. Same thing with Rhea. I mean, we see it as well with Dominic bringing up, I saw Rhea that you're liking Jey Uso. You reply back to Jey Uso and said, "Yeet, what does that all mean?" So it's kind of interesting how that outside the ring stuff is in being influenced inside the ring. And I think the WWE should definitely do more of that, because it just creates this ecosystem where, okay, Raw's over. Well, I'm going to go see what Liv posted. I'm going to go see what Rhea posted. I think Chelsea Green does a great job of keeping her, like, even though she's in the ring for like 4 minutes, please stop squashing Chelsea. She's in the ring for 4 minutes, but her social media presence goes beyond that. And it keeps you liking and engaged with Chelsea's doing. So technology, I think, in every aspect of history has its benefits and its negative side to everything. Someone suffers when a new technology shows up.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess I can put a bow on this, that for me, I would say that where technology has really, aside from helping turn wrestling into a job for me, is the fact that if I want to be part of the wrestling cycle, I can be part of it now for 24 hours a day. It doesn't have to only be when Raw, SmackDown, and NXT are on. I can be part of the cycle at all times, following the conversation from fans, following the posts and videos from wrestlers themselves. So I think that that's pretty neat. But as we talked about, yeah, it comes with its baggage, unfortunately, and the baggage does rear its ugly head, and sometimes it's really, really ugly in certain scenarios, unfortunately. Liv Morgan, though, all right. I want to keep going into that bandwagon here. The Liv Morgan and Rhea storyline, I'm digging it, bro. It is getting spicy. It is turning into the best soap opera telenovela from Univision that I've ever seen. We have Dominic Mysterio chasing Rhea Ripley down with his dirty, disgusting, long-ass mustache. Rhea Ripley licking Dominic's face and kissing him. Liv Morgan crying because she got berated by Dominic Mysterio. This is both my favorite storyline and the goofiest storyline in wrestling right now. Sancho, are you at all a fan or have watched the show Cobra Kai?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Cobra Kai is one of my favorite shows, but I acknowledge how cheesy and campy and sometimes the dramatic moments that are supposed to be sad or like shock-inducing literally make me and my girlfriend burst out in laughing. That's Cobra Kai. And that's the vibes that I'm getting here, where like the shock moments of like Liv Morgan walking away crying, I'm howling laughing. Dominic Mysterio looking all proud while he's getting licked is the funniest thing. Man, I'm into this. I'm into this.
It blows my mind that there's so much more that the WWE is finding in this story. I feel like if this was early 2000s, even Vince McMahon booking, I think we either would have gone to 11 too fast in the story and we would have been turned off by it. But here, Triple H's booking is slowly, gradually heating up.
Yeah.
And he's finding more layers to the story that I didn't think would exist, like Rhea Ripley actually accepting Dom back and saying that you're mine, the licking part and all that stuff. Now we're getting Rhea spicy moments. God, don't look at the camera like that. With the whole thing. So yes, it is. I think it's a very guilty pleasure, but as someone pointed out, I bet you Sancho is going to mention a movie. This brings a movie to mind. It's an early 90s movie, and it is very Lifetime-esque, and it's called The Crush. And stars Carrie Elves and Alicia Silverstone. And in this story, there is a man who eventually moves into this property, and on this property, there's a young lady there, that's Alicia Silverstone, that develops a crush for him. And it gets to the point, now the man is dumb in this situation, and Liv's the person that has his crush, where the man, he doesn't tell her to go away. He like leads her on a little bit, and then when he realizes he's gone down the path too long, he says, "No, get away from me." And he totally tells her off, like Dom did, right? On Monday Night Raw. So Alicia Silverstone goes crazy, and it gets violent. And the guy, Alicia Silverstone, attacks the guy's girlfriend, and then at the ending is crazy and chaotic. But bottom line, that's what's going to happen. Dominic made a huge mistake. And I all thought that SummerSlam Dom was going to turn on Rhea and things of that sort. But I think it's just Liv Morgan is just going to go to a whole other level and just destroy everybody. Like, it's kind of like Scarlet Witch levels. We're now going to get the crazed Scarlet Witch levels where she's chopping people's heads off. You know what I mean? Remember that part in that movie?
I do.
And yeah.
God,
then didn't that wake you up a little bit? It sucked.
That movie sucked.
It did not suck. It's a perfect Halloween MCU movie.
It should have been better. It should have been better.
What, you wanted like 10,000 cameos?
I'm Reed Richards, the smartest man alive, but let me just quickly tell you about Black Bolt and how he's the only one that could defeat you with his mouth. And then, obviously, what does she do? She makes his mouth disappear because dumbass Richards, smartest man alive, spoiled their contingency plan. It's a bad movie.
It's trying to get heat on Scarlet Witch, brother. That's what all it is. All right.
That's a monumental MCU heel turn, though.
Exactly.
Yes.
It all comes down to wrestling, brother. Technology may change, mediums may change. At the end of the day, brother, they overbooked Scarlet Witch. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely overbooked.
She took out the 5 faces of the MCU. The smartest. What were they called again? The council. I forgot what they were called.
Yeah, I don't remember. They're idiots. Is what they were. Reed Richards got turned into spaghetti. Absolute dumbass. Yeah, man. Like, I like the idea of Dominic Mysterio obviously being involved in the finish, and I feel like you could go several ways. I feel like obviously the easiest one is Dom turns on Rhea. There's also the possibility where Dom tries to help Rhea and accidentally helps Liv win, which we've seen that a couple of times.
I'm trying to Google what were they called, and I put Reed Richards Professor X board. Like there's some kind of PTA, but continue. I'm going to continue down my path here.
What was I talking about? Dominic Mysterio.
Yeah. Where it's an easy thing to.
What if, you mentioned her, going full Scarlet Witch and destroying everybody. What if she wins by threatening Dominic Mysterio with like a concerto, and Liv Morgan says like, "No, not my Dom." No, that wouldn't work. She'd let Liv hit him.
They're called the Illuminati.
The Illuminati. Idiots.
There it is.
I call them a bunch of morons, is what I call them. That movie sucked, Sancho.
God, dude, what happened to you? You wake up, you put on the same shirt.
You had to bring up the shirt. You had to bring up the shirt. I thought I was getting away with it. No. Yes, this is the same shirt from the last episode. Sancho will have you believe that I wear this shirt day and night for 5 straight days. It's not true. All right, we do laundry here every 2 days.
Shirts. You have 7 John Cena shirts. 7. You can wear one.
That's
for every
Patreon
day.
Exclusive information you're divulging.
You have 7. You can make a rainbow of all the 7 ones. What was your favorite one again?
What's that?
What was your favorite John Cena one again?
There's this like line.
It doesn't matter what your favorite John Cena shirt is. You Fruity Pebble wearing, John Cena fan, wristband, hat wearing, jorts wearing knee pads. God, he falls for that so easily. It's so easy to get him. And he hears me the whole time, But yeah, Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio.
Don't transition into some calm radio conversation. You think I'm just going to allow that?
Yeah, the great dynamic between Rhea and Liv is fantastic. What can I say?
Um, Out of all of the feuds that in SummerSlam, because obviously I would say the biggest one is, aside from Punk and Drew McIntyre, where does this rank for you? Is this at the top? Because it's
I
at
think
the
it
top
is.
for me.
I would not hate if this main evented, which it
It
shouldn't,
won't.
because there's
It won't.
it won't, but it shouldn't. But I would love that it did, because I feel that this fallout will change the women's division forever. And I think it is a great, interesting blend of what's happening in women's wrestling. Whereas it's interesting that previous era was about the four horsemen, and it was about the four horsewomen. It was about reinstating women's wrestling, getting away from the divas era, being more about in-ring action. And then this is a little bit of the past, but it's not too heavy-handed. I think it is skirting the line very interestingly, and at the same time, people are kind of seeing this as a preview of the Netflix era, which I don't think so. I think they're just trying to see how far they could push the envelope. And the thing about it, it's not like they're doing crazy things. I know Liv Morgan is not dressed provocatively; she's just wearing Daisy Dukes, and when the in-ring gear is more provocative than what Liv Morgan does, but it's just the little differences in how the gestures or whatever. There's those little things that just add a detail. Like Rhea Ripley could have easily kissed the side of Dom's cheek, but she went for the lick. So it's like those little details are what making this much more interesting to me, because it's not so bland, if that makes sense. It's not cheesy.
You mentioned the SummerSlam main event, and I actually think that that's a conversation in itself.
Sure.
I don't know what should main event. I feel like conventional rules would say Cody Rhodes versus Solo Sikoa, but I have a problem with that feud. And
Wow.
the problem with
Wow.
the feud is what's preventing me from saying, yeah, this should main event. But it's also the problem with the feud that's telling me it should main event. See my conundrum here?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. The problem with this feud is that Solo Sikoa's 90% of his motivation, the majority of his promos are not, I'm going to win the title, I'm taking you out, Cody Rhodes. It's Roman is not man enough. I took over Roman's spot. I kicked out the wise man. I am the new tribal chief. That's been Solo's MO, right? And because he's so focused on Roman and the tribal chiefdom, it feels like the title and the title match against Cody Rhodes is a pit stop for this bigger looming thing, which is Roman Reigns. So because it doesn't feel like this like proper feud for the championship itself, I don't think that it should main event. However, it's the thought of Roman coming back that makes me believe that this should main event, because the pop would be crazy. I'm just not buying this feud as a championship feud is what I'm saying, because the focus of a lot of this feud has been on a guy that's not there, which tells me that the point is for the guy to appear. And if he does appear, then all of a sudden we have a main event worthy segment.
I'm in London, in Paris, in Tokyo. I think, let me help you out with that problem within a problem, facing a problem, whatever your problems you've been having. Solo Sikoa, his true aspirations is to be Roman Reigns. He wants to be the tribal chief. And what's missing from Solo Sikoa to be the tribal chief?
Beat Roman Reigns.
No, the undisputed title.
Okay.
He needs that to solidify himself, because he's thinking like he's like a little brother or a cousin, and he wants to say, I want to be like you. What's missing in this picture? I want to be acknowledged. No one's acknowledging me. I'm the tribal chief. I did this. I got rid of Paul Heyman. I introduced Jacob Fatu and the Tongas, and I should be respected. No one's giving me this respect. No city's acknowledging me. Every city should be run by me, the bloodline. Roman Reigns was acknowledged. How come I'm not acknowledged? Oh, I'm missing the undisputed title. I need to beat Cody Rhodes. If I have this title, that's my motivation. Get the title, I will be acknowledged. It is crazy to think that Cody Rhodes will lose to Solo Sikoa for the title, even in a screw over job way. But if you're in that timeline where Solo Sikoa does win, it's because they need to build up Solo Sikoa to be even stronger, so Roman Reigns will take him out. Now, I don't think that's going to happen because they already have Randy Orton waiting in the wings for Cody Rhodes. So what's this going to be? Is it an excuse to have Roman come back, Santi, or another new Bloodline member? In what is it? What's his name? Hikaleo. Hikaleo.
Oh man, look, it has to be Roman. If this main event's okay, if
in
this
Cleveland,
if welcome to the dark side, come to the Cleveland hate bandwagon. Yes, do it. If this main event SummerSlam, it has to be Roman. It can't not be Roman. I'm sorry, it has to be Roman. Just like think of like Backlash, right? Had it been Roman instead of Tongaloa that helped, that should have main evented. But it was Tongaloa. I feel like if it's Hikaleo that comes out, I don't think this main event. It could still happen, but it would just happen earlier in the show. But if this closes the show, it's because it needs or it has something up its sleeve, that ace up its sleeve, and it has to be Roman Reigns. Because as it stands right now, without Roman Reigns, I wouldn't have this main event.
What if it was Jimmy?
No.
Wow.
No.
Wow. Mm-mm. Wow. Jimmy Uso, that would not be enough for you?
No. I already see where Jimmy Uso is gonna pop his head. He's gonna rear his ugly head of jealousy when he sees Jay and Sami Zayn running around having fun with the tag titles. Watch.
Wow.
Watch, brother.
They're gonna put. So wait, Sammy loses the gold at SummerSlam to Braun. Mm-hmm. Sammy wins the gold for tag team with Jay and and Sammy, and then they put them back together, and then the Bloodline, they get inserted back into the Bloodline through the tag team titles.
Yep.
Wow. And then Judgment Day falls apart because they don't have the tag team titles. Finn Balor takes over because Damian loses a belt at SummerSlam. Wham, bam, boom. Coolest guys in the room. How you doing?
All of that is guaranteed to happen now that it's been brainstormed here in wrestling.
Hey, we always call things early here.
That's what happens. So what should main event, Sancho? That's really what I was trying to get to here. What should be main eventing? I'm curious where you land here.
Dude, the thing is like, okay, can we have like a kind of like a stipulation here? Excluding gold. If there was no gold involved.
Okay.
Right? 6-man tag, Creed Brothers, Chad Gable, and the White Six.
Oh, God, you're such an artsy fartsy person. That is the most hipster ass answer you could give. You know that's not true. Give me the real answer. It's like, what's your favorite type of pizza? I love arugula and have you ever tried artichokes? Shut up, Sancho. Give the real answer.
Dog, you never had baby potatoes on a pizza, brother? Oh my God. Soft bacon and potatoes with ricotta cheese on a pizza.
That's West Coast pizza, folks. That is West Coast pizza.
It is so good. Someone in the comments,
okay,
please.
Real answer, Sancho. Wyatt 6 in the... Get out of here. Give me the real answer.
It should be Liv and Dom and Rhea.
Okay. That I can get behind.
Okay. Thank you so much for watching Wrestling is Cool.
I love how I'm like, give me your opinion. Your opinion is wrong. Give me a different opinion.
No, but truthfully, the reason why I think that the Wyatt Six should end the show because the impact of seeing the Wyatts wrestle could propel them to a whole new level. I mean, dude, Uncle Howdy literally coming out saying, "There you are," and hitting the swiftest, snappiest, sweetest Sister Abigail, bang, and Chad Gable just sold it perfectly. Like, that was awesome. So anything that they do is main event worthy. Am I not wrong there?
You're wrong. It's main event worthy for like other stuff, but not for SummerSlam.
Well, Roman Reigns appearing back at Cleveland is not worthy of the Tribal Chief.
Now you're really leaning into this.
No, I'm not. It's more because it's an open air stadium. I want that pop to shake arena. You know what I mean?
Those are gone. Those don't exist anymore.
Oh,
those are. It's true. Those are gone.
The Matt Hardy pop with the Hardy Boys at that
Yeah, that was
wrestling. Oh
crazy.
my
That was
God.
crazy. I think Punk, Drew, and Seth Rollins as special guest referee is what should be main eventing. If you're willing to burn the Money in the Bank briefcase for it, you better be goddamn ready to put that in the main event.
I just hate that Seth Rollins is in that match now. It just deludes it for me.
You know what I think?
What?
I think that Seth Rollins was always a contingency plan in case Punk never got cleared. I think he was inserted early on as Punk was getting, his doctor's updates. And in the event that it was worst case scenario, it wouldn't feel out of place to put Seth Rollins in the match against Drew McIntyre. Because it wouldn't have felt out of place. It would have felt like, okay, we earned it to some degree with their segments. And now that Punk is there, they needed to do something with Seth Rollins. They couldn't just let that plot narrative disappear. And you can't have SummerSlam, the second biggest show of the year, without one of your biggest stars in the entire company.
Dressed like a bed cushion.
Yeah, he was a curtain. Oh, you went with bed cushion. Yeah, I went with a big elaborate mansion curtain.
Look like I mean, the thing about Seth Rollins is just that it's just another wrinkle to the story that doesn't need it. It's already ready. It's like it's overcooked now. You know what I mean? It's like, hey man, I already was happy, and then you threw on that garnish, and now you ruined it. You
Interesting. Interesting. You know what I mean? I have the same thoughts about several of the things that they've done with this feud.
Really?
The Money in the Bank briefcase. Thank you so much for setting me up. This feud is starting, as Sancho said, and I quote, I support Santi in all of his statements. It is getting overcooked. It did need Seth Rollins. It did need them to burn the Money in the Bank briefcase. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
You're never gonna let this go until next year of Money in the Bank, right? Or you're gonna bring it up again, right?
Every week, man. This is gonna be my factory. You got your glaze factory. I got my toxicity factory.
This is the worst. Someone should ban you. Oh my God!
Health violations.
I just feel like the Seth Rollins. There's so much kind of like potential in multiple matches with those three. Why waste it all on one? And then it's just so Seth could screw over one of them, right? That's what's ultimately going to happen. He's not going to call down a match down the line, straight down the middle. I can't even think of any special guest referee that's called a match fair and square. Can you think of any? Probably. Okay. Recently in Match Club, John Cena, Daniel Bryan, they had a fair and square.
Patreon.com/SantiZap.
Triple H called it down the middle, and then, shenanigans happened afterwards. I could see that happening if shenanigans happen afterwards. So this setup, ultimately, I think this is the setup: Seth Rollins versus CM Punk at Mania.
Okay, Mania. Okay, that's what I wanted to ask about, because we have Bash in Berlin less than a month after SummerSlam.
Bash in Berlin.
And then after that, a month later, a Bad Blood. So you're thinking that's the Mania feud, right? That's what I'm thinking as well. I don't think that you can knock on the door of that. I mean, you can knock on the door, but don't invite that feud in just yet. I feel like you need to allow Seth Rollins and CM Punk to simmer, and then the meals over the next several months should be CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre in a trilogy.
You could definitely have CM Punk and Drew at Bad Blood. That would be a great place for that. My thing as well is just thinking about SummerSlam, and I know this is not a preview episode, but I'm thinking, why are we already wasting Rhea and Liv? Like, do we have to pop that now? Like, why can't we just wait? Because that's a Mania match. It's being built up to Mania levels.
Yes, yeah. I think it's just a timing thing. You're right. This is a Mania-worthy feud. It's just that it boiled over. Not
you think so? There's no more left that we can go with that? Like you think like that's where sometimes where I feel it's how uncomfortable can I get with Liv and Rhea and what they're doing with poor old sweet old Dom. Where can we go? Like, because eventually we've been trying to see the dismantling of Judgment Day for almost a year and a half now.
Right.
So is it finally going to happen and then the fallout occurs at Mania? Or is it going to fall out at Mania? Is it going to break apart at Mania? I mean, if they're going to make SummerSlam can't miss PLE, then it should happen at SummerSlam. But I wish it's so good. And the virality of Liv Morgan and Rhea is insane. Anything you post about them is like instant.
Yes.
And they know what they're doing, and they know how to push the envelope, and it is working so much to the T that anytime Monday Night Raw is like 80% Judgment Day now. You know that?
Yes, all the backstage segments are something to do with Judgment Day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that this is good enough to be on WrestleMania. I just don't think that it has the legs to go SummerSlam to Mania. Because yes, I love the feud, but we also have to be objective about it and recognize that to a degree it is a bit of a one-trick pony. It is the Dominic Mysterio. I just don't think that it's got the legs to last that long and not feel like it's overstayed its welcome. I have a feeling that for WrestleMania that they're just going to do biggest match available for Rhea Ripley, whether it's Io Sky, a Bianca Belair, a Royal Rumble winner, whatever it might be. I have a feeling that that's where they're going to go with Rhea Ripley.
Stephanie Vacker?
No, Stephanie Vacker will be in NXT for a while, learning to cut English promos, in my opinion. Same with Julia. I think that Rhea Ripley is just going to be given biggest match available at WrestleMania. That seems to be a norm right now with Rhea Ripley, right? Like last year's WrestleMania, what was the biggest match possible? Not the match people wanted. It wasn't the feud that people wanted, because they could have started Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley right off of Elimination Chamber, and they chose not to. They decided to go with biggest match possible, which was her and Becky Lynch. Last year as well, she was the Rumble winner, but they went with biggest match possible, her and Charlotte Flair. Even though we'd already seen it before, they're just like, biggest match possible, let's go with it. Because I feel like for WrestleMania, to a degree, I feel like they just want the known commodity that's going to for sure sell. And for SummerSlam, I feel like they could be a bit cheeky with it. They could try a bit more goofy storylines and see if they can stick and become main event storylines, like we're seeing here with Dominic versus Rhea. I feel like they're more willing to take chances on a SummerSlam than they are with a WrestleMania. At least that's the evidence that I'm seeing. More often than not, for the women, it's biggest match available.
Do you think, just to go to another match, that Braun and Sami is going to be a clean finish? Because there's so many factors that happen in those lead-ups, that so many DQs and so many aftermath where Braun is like just destroying, like, good Lord. By the way, Ilya hasn't really won on the main roster. He's been fodder.
I know. He's turning into Dolph Ziggler. He's turning into Dolph Ziggler, sadly.
Yes. Yes. And it all started. So, yeah, it all started. We'll talk about that later. It all started with Jey Uso beating him. Remember?
That's true. Jay Cena, as people are calling him. Jay Cena and Sammy Hogan, as people are referring to them. You can't yeet me. Oh, that's not going to work for me, Oos.
I just like when Sammy goes, "Are you okay, Jay?" He goes, "Yeet."
Okay, you ready for this?
Yeah.
You asked for a Jimmy Uso return?
I did.
During the Intercontinental Championship match to cost Sami Zayn.
Wow.
Yeah. Yes. I think it's inevitable that Sami Zayn gets reinserted into the Bloodline narrative in some way, shape, or form.
It's too good not to be.
It has to be. And we already saw the step one. Yes.
Get a box. 2. Cut a hole in that box.
Gross. I forgot about that video. It's my box.
It's Jimmy in the box. Go
yes.
ahead.
Yeah, we already saw step one. It's my Jimmy in a box. It works still. Still.
Jimmy. Get out of here.
It's not a little Jimmy. We already got first step. I'm trying to get these words out. Jay and Sami Zayn coming together to go after the Judgment Day. They beat the tag champions. Feel like we should talk about the tag team division, but they beat the tag champions I think it's inevitable that it's going to set up a tag team title match. Rhea Ripley has already warned Judgment Day to not go after Jey Uso, and I feel like this is the reason why. And if we're going to go down the route of Jay and Sammy being a tag team, I feel like this is where Jimmy makes sense.
You mentioned Rhea, and it just hit my like I had a flash. When are we gonna get the hotel tape? The hotel key with Liv and Dom, that's been sitting somewhere.
They're not touching that.
They have to.
You
That
think
is
so?
dude. That is the final push. That's either gonna push Rhea away from Dom completely, or that's gonna. It's the smoking gun, dude. They're waiting for it to be revealed. Why have this storyline with this hotel key that went nowhere on that Raw? It's gonna come out. There's gonna be
what is that
security
called?
footage.
Chekhov's gun or whatever? Where like if it gets introduced at some point, it will come to play in a storyline. I don't know. You're the theater guy. Isn't that what Chekhov's gun is?
Is a narrative principle that states that every element in story should be necessary and relevant to the plot.
Okay, so if they introduce the hotel key, and so far it's irrelevant, Chekhov's gun dictates that at some point it will be relevant.
Yeah, an element that seems unimportant at first, such as an object, character trait, or backstory, should later become more significant.
There we go. That could be it.
Dios mío.
Dios mío. That could be it, man. If that does come to play, I think it's going to demonstrate planning between Finn Balor and Liv Morgan. I don't think it's going to be Dom. I think it's going to be Finn and Liv.
Well, I mean, that's the only thing that, I mean, I know we plotted out how Judgment Day loses everything, but there's a way for Finn to take over Judgment Day. That's what's been brewing as well. Because Finn Balor and JD are more than capable, and Carlito are more than capable of being a faction within themselves. I think what's going to happen is, I have noticed this as well. Have you noticed how Rhea and Damian, hey,
I'm coming back. Hey, keep going. Keep going.
Rhea and Damian have been very chummy lately?
Yeah.
Too chummy.
Too chummy, you think?
Yes.
So we've been talking about the Judgment Day breaking up for what feels like literal years since Edge created the group. We've been talking about the disbanding of Judgment Day. You think that it actually happens this year?
On this day,
I see clearly. Does it happen?
Sorry, I just thought of Def Rebel changing Edge's.
What would it be?
It'd be R-rated. And then, anyway. Poor Sheamus. On this day, I feel that, no, dude, they're just too good. That's my problem with some of these things, that I understand that sometimes you want to have swerves and heel turns and face turns, but they're just so good as is right now. It's working. Why experiment and break them up and it may not work anymore? I mean, when DX got separated, even when through the injury where Shawn Michaels went down, like they had to pivot and they brought in the Outlaws, the New Age Outlaws and X-Pac. It worked and they kept going, but then I don't know. You could argue that DX basically faded away because times changed and they couldn't just be DX anymore. And I don't think that's something that Judgment Day has that problem. I feel Judgment Day feels a little bit more timeless in a sense, because they're just boys in the clubhouse, right? They have that established, and they're not really annoying heels. They're not. I don't know. I can't put my finger on it. Because do they have a lot of matches that end with Dominic interfering or Rhea interfering? Remember that was happening like years ago. That was like base level heel stuff. But I feel like they've now grown into like a nuanced type of group where they're doing things a little bit differently than a normal heel. Especially like you mentioned how there's a mixture of face tendencies with them. I just don't want to break them up so soon. I just feel like we hit another stratosphere with them that I think we could go another year at least. What about you?
I think that in the life cycle of factions and the Triple H era of booking, that it would still be weirdly too early. You know, like we still have Damage Control going on, even though they lost their leader. The Bloodline's still going on, even if it's just by name instead of like by members. I think if anything, we could see people being kicked out We already have Carlito in there being able to take a spot if somebody were to get kicked out, and Judgment Day could continue to operate as such. I just feel like there is an inevitable change that needs to happen with how popular Rhea Ripley is and how popular Damian Priest is also getting as well. And when I say popular, I mean like becoming crowd favorites slowly. And as much as I personally love that dynamic of, faces and heels within the same group, I don't know the longevity behind that in terms of creating booking that doesn't handcuff the writers.
Yeah, but they're doing just fine as is. I don't feel like there's any bit of problem of Damian and Rhea not growing in popularity because they're heels. You know what I mean? Like I don't see, like, I don't think Rhea could do anything. The only thing that she could do that's probably would put her back on the heel side is destroying Liv to the point and destroying Dom to the point where she can't come back. But I don't see that happen either. I mean, even if she did turn on Dom, she'd still be a face. And the same thing with Damian now that I feel Damian's actually works better as a face because he works better in general. His promos are better and his just attitude is so much better when he's a face. But when he's not at his best, when he's a heel trying to be a Papa Bear. But what my point was what I was wondering is I think there's just still more. They have so much more to go. I don't think we're tired of that dynamic just yet.
I think you're right there. I think there is still more to go. I don't think that changes need to happen soon. I think when I want to make sure I get my point across, when I talk about like writing booking and being handcuffed, how do you explain the fact that, let's say, a heel Dominic Mysterio and Finn Balor and JD McDonough are getting beaten down by Braun Strowman, but then who's the big baby face, right? That's loved by the fans. How do you explain away that Damian and Rhea don't come out to help? Because they can't come out to help because they're also baby faces, and then them stopping a baby face goes against with what they're doing. How do you explain the opposite? Babyface getting beaten up, Rhea Ripley getting beaten up, and none of the heel guys coming out to help. It just creates, I think, a handcuff in terms of storytelling.
Oh, little Santi. Oh,
A sweet summer child. Is that what you're kind of thinking of me?
Santi. They already explained this, Santi. You stay out of each other's business. Damian's business is Damian's business. Finn's business, Finn's business. Come on.
Then why are you a faction?
Because they love leather. They love video games and leather.
That's good enough for me. Let's move on.
Well, no, before we move on, I just wanted to bring up, here's the problem of the splintering of factions. And this is the thing I think we should discuss. And I passed the question to you. You remember when the Wyatt Six were doing their thing, or the Wyatts were doing their thing, and they splintered them and they made the Bludgeon Brothers? Yes. You don't want that. I don't want that watered down version of Judgment Day when they splinter. Why have a watered down Judgment Day with Finn and then a watered day with Damian when together they're better? And I think that's the issue that you may run into, that if you splinter Judgment Day and you just let them create these little nodes of their own Judgment Day-esque faction, you're going to get a Bludgeon Brothers 2.0.
Yeah, but I think that's different because the Bludgeon Brothers, even though we know they were part of the Wyatt family, I don't think that there was supposed to be any connection to the Wyatt family. And that's what happens a lot when factions break up, is that you go off and do something that has nothing to do with the group that you were a part of. Like the Wyatts and Hammers were never a thing.
I know, but they were creepy guys. And I think of when Luke Harper left, it was the same thing. He was just...
Yes, that's a better example, I would say. It was still the identity of when he was in the faction, but not in the faction.
And he was a face too.
Hey,
remember?
He for a little bit he was a face. Yeah. Rowan was the one that was a face right off the get-go to help Team Cena.
See, the thing about factions, and I think like just to put a pin on this, the only closest faction I could think that is similar is the Ministry of Darkness. And the Ministry of Darkness, the reason why it works so well when they were going is because they had the Undertaker, and there was no one else that kind of was going to be the highlight. But I think what you're saying is the issue with Judgment Day is there's so many people they're all like all four of them, Rhea, Dom, Damian, and Finn, and then sometimes JD. Like those four, they're they're so good on their own, but they work better together, and that's what I'm saying. Like that's my fear. If they separate Rhea and then she flounders, how can mommy be on top without anyone to rule?
Anyone to
You know
be
what I'm
on
saying?
top of.
No, that's not
What you were getting at.
No,
That's what you
I
were getting at.
I wanted to avoid that.
I feel that. I think we're in agreement.
Too early.
Yeah, I think that it is too early as well. You know what it's not too early of? It's not early enough to blow up this tag team division. What is going on, bro? DIY wins the tag titles, and then somehow it's A-Town Down Under, the guys that lost the tag titles that are main eventing SmackDown.
That was weird.
That's weird. It's like DIY. Oh, you won? Okay, bye. See ya. See you later. Goodbye. You can come back whenever we need you again. The tag titles over on Raw are being used as props to elevate a different storyline. I think only now we can say, okay, maybe there's something going on with Sami Zayn and Jey Uso. And then even the women's side of things, it's really bizarre. We have Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill that like, we're done being a tag team. We're going to go for the Money in the Bank briefcase. Just kidding. We're back to being a tag team, and we're going after the unholy union. And then out comes Zoe Stark, who literally just lost a match. Zoe Stark, Shayna Baszler, and Sonya Deville. No, we run things around here. Meanwhile, Zoe literally just lost a match. Bro, they don't know what they're doing with the tag division to the point where, like, I don't think Triple H likes tag team wrestling.
That's a good point. That's a very valid point. I think that tag team wrestling works at its best when you don't have talent that could be a single star on their own. Like when they're just, dude, there's like, if you look at other promotions, they have tag teams that are a tag team and they're going to work together, like the Rascals.
Yes.
You don't see those guys or was it ABC and TNA? Like there's so many guys that just as a whole are they make each other an attraction. And there's not any one of them that could just go off and be a Shawn Michaels and Jannetty's type of situation. And I think that's what the WWE does not have. And I think the WWE wants you to stand on your own. And when you're in a tag team, I think that they just don't have time for a tag team to stand on their own. Like A-Town, like Austin Theory and Grayson Waller are not a tag team.
No, of course
there just
not.
happened to be two singles guys that needed something to do. And I feel like that is what's happening to modern day WWE booking when it comes to the Triple H era, is that they're just tag teams are mostly just people that they don't know what to do with them, and they just throw them together. And then the curse of the WWE is when they have a tag team like Isla Dawn and Alba Fire that have been together forever, Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair, two singles, comes in and just takes the belt from them. So what's the whole point of being a tag team wrestler? If the whole point of it is to be a team, a chemistry, someone who has experience working together, and then just for you to be ripped apart when singles comes in and take your belts like Sami and Jey Uso.
I think you're hitting it on the head. It's like right now they prefer the tag titles on DIY is a different example, but in recent memory, these tag titles have just worked better on people that are single stars that just need something to do for a little while. At least that's where the tag titles have been going, which I don't think is indicative of a good way to build a tag team division, because inevitably those two will go their separate ways. You can't build the tag team division around Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill. You can, to a degree, help elevate it, and they did by making sure that those tag titles always got on PLEs, something that they couldn't do without them. But then you can't scale that because they're going to go off in their own at some point or another. And that's what's going to happen that's what happened with Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. They didn't help elevate that division. It was cool that they were tag champions.
Injury changed that, yeah.
And
well, let me ask you a question. Is there true tag teams in the WWE under Triple H?
Oh yeah. Like they've got AOP, which they don't use, Pretty Deadly, which they don't use, the New Day, which they didn't really use either. They had the Ludwig Kaiser and Giovanni Vinci as a tag team. They decided to go and make Ludwig singles. So absolutely, there are examples of proper end-to-end tag teams. KC2, you know, the Party Girls tag team. And somehow they're the ones that like never get a chance at the tag titles.
So then my follow-up question to that is it enough to hold on to 2 titles?
Are you suggesting to go back to Unified?
I'm not suggesting to go back to Unified. I think the issue with Unified was it never floated over to the other brand.
Correct. That's 100% true.
So if they're going to do tag team titles, they need to do it like the women's tag team division and just have them float to different brands, because then you could foster it. I mean, of course, there's rumors that they've signed more tag teams, the Motor City Machine Guns, right?
Yes.
And if they appear, that's going to bolster that. And that's what I mean. Like, that's the 2 dudes that are a bona fide tag team that you're never going to see do a singles run. And the same thing with the Revival or / FTR. Those dudes are just so good. You're never going to see them separate. And I think that's what the WWE is missing, is just 2 people that are never going to separate. Like the Party Girls, I don't ever see them having a singles run because they're just so good together.
My concern, you know, with them bringing in Motor City Machine Guns and, you know, let's say FTR in the future, is that there's more evidence in recent memory that they would be used poorly than they would be used well.
You talking about like an OC situation?
I'm talking just like tag team booking in general. I guess I shouldn't talk about like individual tag teams. Like, there's just more evidence that tag team wrestling is booked poorly than booked properly, aside from WrestleMania 39. But I feel like that was a Haley's Comet, once in a blue moon, where you have this storyline that coalesced because of the back of a different storyline to make these tag titles be WrestleMania main event worthy. But that's, you can't rely on those happening very often. You need to have a consistent tag team division. And even bringing in guys like Motor City Machine Gun or FTR in the future, I don't know that, yes, they would absolutely add to the talent pool of the tag team division, but they wouldn't fix the booking of the tag team division. Because right now it's the problem isn't talent, the problem is booking of it.
Okay, so and to follow up with that, is it better when a tag team holds the titles or when 2 single stars hold the title? I know you said it helps elevate the title, the prestige of it, when the 2 megastars hold it, but in your eyes, is it better for a solidified tag team to hold the belts and to have the division do that, or to have tourists and 2 single stars to stop by and hold on to the belt?
I like them both, but like if you're looking for something to be able to scale around, it should be a tag team. I think it's cool to have passer-buyers every now and then win those tag titles. I'm thinking, you know, like Austin and Triple H, for example, 2-man power trip. I'm thinking of
Rock and Sock Connection.
Rock and Sock Connection. But I would always prefer a Hardys. I would always prefer an Edge and Christian. I would always prefer a Dudley Boys. I would always prefer an Usos. I would always prefer a New Day to build the actual division around. I think you just need to find a happy medium. And I feel like that's actually what they're missing. And it's just so weird that the actual tag teams are the ones that are treated like fodder. And it's the passer-buyers that are treated like the top of the mountain in the tag team division.
Can NXT help?
NXT has their own problems with the tag team division as well. Right now, the tag team champions are awesome, but they're also 2 singles guys. It's Axiom and Nathan Frazier. They're just 2 singles guys that came together to win these tag titles. Who were the champions before that, Sancho? Baron Corbin and Braun Breaker, 2 singles guys that came together to win the tag titles.
I like the Alpha Dogs though.
I like them. No, and it works. Like, you can make that happen, but then once they go away, once they separate, everything that you did and built around them disappears. You're back down to ground zero. And NXT is having that exact same problem as the main roster.
Can TNA help then?
That's exactly where TNA comes in. 100% TNA. TNA's tag team booking is brilliant. That is actually where they excel. They excel in their tag team division. You look at their tag team division right now, and it's tag teams. It is guys that you guys are tag team specialists, and you are the champions because you are the best of the tag team specialists. ABC just became tag team champions at Slammiversary, and to me, their identity is they're tag team guys.
They're so good too. They're so good. Would you say that because like I'm trying to think of eras of tag team wrestling. Like I think of the 90s as New Age Outlaws were the guys, the headbangers were another things. The Dudley Boys, they were the kind of the thing that I remember back in those days. Even like the Brothers of Destruction, right? They kind of worked as a tag team in some aspects. But like when you get into the early, I'm gonna throw out names here: the Vaudevillains, the Big Cass and Enzo, the Usos. Like that division was just in a weird state of mind. I feel, and I think that until the Usos came back as the Usos Penitentiary, that's when I think tag team wrestling had a North Star. It had a good team point. And then when they became the undisputed titles with the Usos and they became into the Bloodline, I think into 30, I think that's the crescendo, and I think the climax, and I think we're trying to find our way back into a landing point. We just haven't found it. I mean, when Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso became tag team champions, I was like, oh man, they don't know what to do with these belts.
Yeah. I think the best era of tag team wrestling is actually the Ruthless Aggression era. When you look at some of the top tier tag teams from that era, it's guys that were tag team through and through. There was like the really awesome era of the SmackDown 6, which was Los Guerreros, which were a tag team. But then it was like Edge and Rey Mysterio, singles guys that came together. Benoit and Angle, singles guys that came together. But then that era also had Brian Kendrick and Paul London. It had the Basham brothers. It had La Resistance. The Dudley Boys were in there. It had the world's greatest tag team, Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas. There were so many tag teams that their identity was like war tag team specialists. And the Ruthless Aggression era, what they did with tag team wrestling is that tag team wrestling was actually their breeding ground for next single stars, as opposed to where you put singles guys that you have nothing to do with right now. I look at, for example, when it was Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas. That was Shelton Benjamin's playground to be able to grow and develop into a top male's mid-card guy. I look at Eminem, Johnny Nitro, and Joey Mercury. That's where they took Joey Mercury, Johnny Nitro, Johnny Mundo, all the different names that he's got. And he ended up becoming a major single star. That's where the Ruthless Aggression era excelled at using tag teams, where they gave them a tag team identity, but you could tell at some point somebody in the back said, look at both of these guys. They're a great tag team. But that guy, that's the guy that we see a future in.
So you could argue that they're doing the same thing with Jade, though. They are definitely fostering her.
That's a bit different, I would say. That's definitely a mentoring situation as opposed to let's see which one of them rises to the top.
Right, of course. But I think, again, I keep going back to this point. Naomi should be part of that group, the big three.
I like when they were the big three.
Right? It makes so much more sense, and it balances them out, because Jade and Bianca are very similar in the way they approach the business, whereas Naomi was kind of like the differing factor, the wise veteran, being able to just bounce off of them. And I just feel like there's like little things that if you can move a piece here, you can move a piece there, I feel like it'd be a lot better off in this entire thing. But yeah, man, I just feel that the tag team division, I'm interested to see what happens with the 6-man gauntlet. And I know that it's happening the day of the free services. You're going to see it when it gets put on YouTube. If you were a patron, you would saw us on Tuesday. The 6-man gauntlet is going to say a lot to the future of at least SmackDowns. And again, yes, Triple H does need to do better, because I feel that Grayson Waller and Austin Theory did nothing with those belts, but it's not their fault, because they literally had 1 or 2 matches as tag team champions.
All right, let's move on.
Yeah, I was going to say this as well. I feel like the TNA guys could definitely help, because like they could easily put the Rascals on SmackDown tomorrow.
Talent-wise, absolutely.
Right?
Like, dude, there's so many people from TNA that it's just like talent-wise, obviously you're so ready for main roster. It's just name and recognition-wise why you probably wouldn't.
speaking of name, when does Heartbreak Kid become Heartbreak Man? You know, is he gonna always be the Heartbreak Kid?
You know who you know who can't ask him? Con Man. He got blocked on Twitter by Shawn Michaels. He claims for no reason, but there's a reason. There's always a reason, Con Man.
Dude, that would hurt my psyche if one day I was like, oh, dude, The Rock, I'm gonna check out, and then I get blocked from The Rock.
Bro, that'd be me and Cena. It's like, man, you follow 800,000 people and you picked me to block.
And then I thought, let's block Sancho. Dude, I don't know, man. That's the harsh reality of Twitter. Because sometimes you just post something randomly, like at 2 a.m, thinking like, whatever, right? And then it
rubs
comes across. HBK, dude, looks down like, yeah, blocked.
Blocked. It's over for you. You know, we talked about the tag team division there for a bit, and I feel like this is a good jumping off point on SmackDown in general, because I do think that the tag team booking of SmackDown was part of the reason why SmackDown wasn't very good. But I think that there's more reasons beyond that. I compare SmackDown to Raw, and for a long time, I was of the mind that SmackDown would just be magically fixed if we just wave a wand and make it 3 hours. And I'm starting to think that that is not the case. Would it help? No. Would it help and would it make it better? Absolutely. But I think that there are more pressing issues on SmackDown than just a lack of time.
You're not coming at me because I'm just a reviewer of the SmackDown show on Patreon.
The B-tier show over on Patreon, reviewed by Sancho.
So this is not a dig at that. This is a dig at the overall product.
Yeah, the overall product.
Just making sure.
Just leaving a lot to be desired. Like, let's compare apples to apples, right?
Sure.
Raw women's division, SmackDown women's division. What are you more interested in?
I mean, that's unfair.
I know it's not. They've both women's world championships. They both have top tier women on both sides. SmackDown has the better talent, actually, I would argue. Which are you more interested in?
It's, again, a lack of time.
That's not the question, Sancho. Go down this yellow. Indulge me here. Which one do you like more, the Raw or the SmackDown?
Raw.
Okay. The mid-card title. I would say that SmackDown is more interesting, but the champion is never there. So by de facto, the Raw mid-card championship feud is going to generate more interest because the champion is there every single week. The feud gets developed every single week. LA Knight and Logan Paul, it's every other week. That could be an issue of time. That's where I'll give time a problem. Or it could be an issue of putting a championship on a guy that's never there.
Okay, pause before you go down the line. First off, you stumbled upon the exit here of the Hollow Glaze, all right? You stumbled upon it. Boom. Can I acknowledge that Logan Paul roasted LA Knight? Yes.
Destroyed him. Ended his life. Career over.
Which we predicted that he would.
He would.
We said that if Logan, he has a chance, he's going to.
Sean.
I know. I was like, jeez. Oh, God. Jim Tan with the catchphrase. Jesus. Roasted him.
Dude.
Catchphrase.
It's before. I know. Wrestling is school. If you made it this far. It's unfair, though. Because
it is.
LA Knight is handcuffed. He can't say 1% of the stuff that you could say about Logan Paul. That's just one Google search away. But Logan Paul can clearly say whatever he wants.
Right. And he could just drag LA Knight through the mud. But I did like the line as a heel. Hey, this means nothing to me. I have this and that. This is your life. This is everything to you. And it's really good. At the end of the day, though, LA Knight got what he wanted. He got a match at SummerSlam against Logan Paul, and he got him to sign. So if he got burned through hell getting there, so be it. He got what he wanted. And at the same time, to answer now that Hollow Glaze has been closed, to go back to what you're saying, that's why they're going to put the belt in LA Knight. So he could be United States champion. But what is he going to do as champion? Who is he going to feud with? I don't know. And that's where I feel that SmackDown has that problem because of limited time, you want him to feud with Santos for the United States title as soon as he beats Logan at SummerSlam? No. Ew, brother. Ew, I don't want that. But that's what I'm going to get because there's not a lot of talent on the SmackDown roster because they're either in a weird tag team division like Austin Theory and Grayson Waller, which are the only heels on SmackDown, or you're in the Bloodline. Like, that's it. there's like, it's so short of a show that either you're with Cody Rhodes in the high level event, you're in the mid card, and you're either going to be on a tag team or a random happenstance match, the women's division, or you're in the Bloodline. There's not enough room.
Let me wrangle you back.
Wrangle me back.
Non-title feuds over on Raw. All right, we have Xavier Woods and Karrion Kross, which if it were up to you would be on SummerSlam.
Don't you dare. You said before the pod you don't like Karrion Kross, but continue.
We have Karrion Kross and Xavier Woods. We have the Wyatt Six and Chad Gable. And we have Seth Rollins, CM Punk, and Drew McIntyre. So those are the major non-title feuds happening on Raw. What are the major non-title feuds happening over on SmackDown, Sancho?
There is no room for anything else.
So there's nothing.
Yes, there's nothing.
There's nothing. So you're telling me in just the 1 hour of Raw that it has over SmackDown that they're able to pack in all of those extra feuds?
Yeah.
They're able to make better storyline for the women? I don't think so.
Okay, wait, slow your roll. First off, SmackDown, they do a lot of recapping on SmackDown. They have to talk about what happened on Monday Night Raw. They have to talk about what happened in the PLE. They have to
Raw
talk about
does that.
Raw has time to do all that, and SmackDown has to do all that, and they have no room for anything else.
Main event feud, Sancho. The feud on SmackDown has Cody Rhodes, the Bloodline, Randy Orton, Kevin Owens.
Yeah.
And over on Raw, we have just the simple Damian Priest Gunther. Which one do you like more?
SmackDown.
Bull crap! Damian Priest and Gunther, with what tiny little leeway they've been doing, has been so much more interesting than Solo Sikoa. Wah, 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 wah. I'm taking it off. Wah, wah, wah. Versus Cody Rhodes, a feud that's not even for the title. It's just him wanting to cosplay as Roman Reigns. That's not a feud. Damian and Gunther are fighting on site, brother. That's the better feud. Raw is just way better, regardless of time constraints. SmackDown can't book crap right now.
Listen here, man. We all know that SmackDown's job is not weekly. SmackDown's job is to get us to Cody Rhodes versus Roman versus The Rock type of situation. SmackDown is in a floating nebulous right now of purgatory. They can't do anything because everyone's gone. All right, Roman's gone, The Rock's gone. I mean, Kevin Owens was gone for a week. I feel that if Kevin Owens wasn't gone because of what happened to his mom, good thing that his mom is doing A-okay. I think that's why you had the same thing happen 2 weeks in a row, because what they need to do is get rid of Kevin Owens and Randy Orton to put Cody Rhodes by himself for SummerSlam. So what they did was they split apart 2 episodes, and they split apart one angle to 2 episodes because Kevin Owens had to deal with his mom stuff. So I understand why you would say it might suck, because it felt samey, where literally Jacob Fatu just comes in and just says no to everybody and destroys everybody. But you cannot argue that SmackDown's impact is not as good as Raw's impact. SmackDown gets it done with limited time, and it's the last 10 to 15 minutes of SmackDown. Come on, dude. Don't look at me with that face. Don't look at me with the face that runs the place.
don't butter me up with a great catchphrase.
With AJ Styles. No, I think like when SmackDown cooks, it's electric. Literally, when The Rock and the final boss, the road to WrestleMania, SmackDown was by far the best thing in wrestling. Yeah,
but you're talking about the past, brother. I'm talking about the now, and it just hasn't been good.
2 months ago, like in April, 3 months ago, Santi.
Who's going to tell him soon that it's going to be 4 months ago? It's farther out than you think.
Okay. After SummerSlam, who's going to have the better fallout? SmackDown or Raw?
I would want to say it's SmackDown. I would want to, and that's all because of Roman. And what, are we placing our eggs on the basket of a guy that shows up once every 5 months?
It worked for like 4 months prior.
No, it didn't. It only worked. It only worked because The Rock was there every week. Roman, look at the build up to Royal Rumble when Roman showed up like once. It sucked. It sucked. And then the build up.
Does this trigger you?
It does. It does. It does. It's annoying the hell out of me. But then the build up to WrestleMania, yeah, Roman wasn't there, but The Rock was, and it made it entertaining every single week.
You remember that thing where Michael Jordan's playing quarters with that guy, and that guy does this to Michael? That's me.
SmackDown sucks right now, man. And,
no, okay,
and it feels like every other show is pre-taped.
Listen. SmackDown has its problems. I will agree with you there. The recaps and then the filler episodes and the lead up to the go home for the PLE's always been problematic lately in Triple H's booking because it just feels like nothing really happens. And you could argue, Santi, that SmackDown suffers because a lot of their matches and a lot of their storylines are not on PLEs because there are only 4 to 5 matches when they get benefited for at least being on a PLE, so people could be interested to watch and maybe they could give more time on SmackDown.
Dude, if they can't get people interested on SmackDown, why would anybody be interested on a PLE?
To be fair, though, do you feel that Triple H sometimes lets stories just ghosts them slowly? Or
give me an example.
My problem is like I feel that some of the television on Monday Night Raw and SmackDown you can't invest in because you know it will never appeal on a PLE when it should at least get a chance to appear on a PLE. Like Karrion Kross, Xavier Woods, you brought them up earlier.
That's not PLE worthy. Stop. I will not slow down. I will not. No, Mark, no.
Slow down. Children play here, okay? I think without an inkling or a chance that they won't be on a PLE, you're just not going to be interested. And that's unfair to Xavier and Karrion because they're doing work, they're getting time on Monday Night Raw, but their payoff should not happen on a random
Raw.
Raw.
But their job is to make it so interesting on Raw that you want to see it on a PLE, Sancho.
They're doing their best, though.
But I don't know. I'm not saying that they're not doing their best. I'm sure they're great dudes. I'm sure they're trying their
great
guys. I know great guys. Let me tell you something about great guys. I'm sure they're great guys, and I'm sure they're trying their heart out. But it's not interesting enough to go onto a PLE. Okay. Their job is to make it interesting to be on a PLE, and it's not interesting enough.
Are you telling me that a PLE can make a match interesting for you?
I don't understand that. Like the concept of it just being interesting by being on a PLE. Is that what you're saying?
Like a PLE gives it gas.
It gives it gas, but like at some point you need to put gas in a good vehicle. Putting premium gas in a 1940s rundown piece of crap that is Xavier Woods versus Karrion Kross is still bad.
I've been there, man. Hey, hoopty's a hoopty, man. You got to get somewhere somehow. Point A to point B. I'm just simply asking that it could be a meta discussion that the lack of matches on PLEs sometimes makes the weekly television suffer.
And I'm of the mind that be good on weekly television so that we can enhance the PLEs. We just have different philosophies. It's like I have a great philosophy and you have a terrible one. You see how we're different there? See how you see the difference?
But there's lots of other people that I believe in this philosophy. That's the Socratic method.
A lot of people are wrong, man. A lot of people.
Oh God! Can we talk about Bobby Lashley?
Man, let's talk about Bobby Lashley.
Let's talk about Bobby. I think it's fair to say that the WWE definitely tried, and Triple H definitely put Bobby on a path to do something different with what he does. But when they try to make the what we call them, the Hurt Street Profits,
the Pride,
or what we call them, the Hurt Street Profits,
the Hurt Street Profits, the Hurt Profits,
the Hurt Profits is a lot cooler name. I think it's just that Bobby couldn't really become a heel there, and then the people couldn't make him a heel, and it just never worked, and it just fell apart. I mean, they gave him an angle in the program with the Final Testament, and they had that Mania match with the Philadelphia Eagles luchadors. I don't know, man. I feel that there is cases where the WWE does give a fair try to talent, and then there's definitely great examples of WWE not giving a chance with the talent like Cameron Grimes and Dijak. So I don't know, man. It sucks that Bobby's gone, but I feel that with the relationship with TNA, I think he'd be great on TNA. Like, oh my God,
One of the best TNA champions of all time.
Give him a match with Moose, brother. Good Lord. Even he could join the system. Is it called the system? Yes.
It's called the system,
even join.
yes.
Yeah, he can even join the system. I mean, that would be interesting. Or go up against the system. He'd be a great guy to be in the main event. I prefer that. Right.
Yeah.
To be that. I don't like the idea of Bobby going to AEW with MVP to start the Hurt Business over there. It would be because one, AEW just has way too many heel factions. Like so many. Like even Daniel Bryan's is kind of a heel faction, but they're not. So I don't know if that's a good route for Bobby, but this idea that he didn't get a shot to do anything, I feel that that's kind of not a fair thing to say. I think the WWE definitely gave him a shot, and just unlucky circumstances what happened at WrestleMania 39 with Bray Wyatt getting sick before all that. So
yeah, I feel like I think you hit it on the head right there. It's just unlucky moments for Bobby Lashley in this last 2-year run. There's the Bobby Lashley part, excuse me, the Bray Wyatt part that made him miss WrestleMania 39. The fact that he was pulled out of King of the Ring because of injury as well, when I felt like he could have had like a big impact on there as well. And that injury, of course, kept him off TV for so long to the point that we actually never saw him again, if you think about it, at least in ring. So there was a lot of that. There was a lot of like, hey, we've got these plans for Bobby Lashley, but the timing is just off. And that happened a lot under Triple H. I felt like, weirdly enough, Vince McMahon actually booked Bobby Lashley better, with the Hurt Business being WWE champion. Even if I don't think it was very good, I feel like they still had a lot of gas left with the Hurt Business. But I don't even think that we have a good enough pool of information to say how good
a sample.
Yeah, how good Triple H would book Bobby Lashley, because the timings were just always off between injuries, start-stop feuds because of something that you can't control. Yeah, it's just unfortunate. But Bobby Lashley, even though he's nearing 50, looks like he's 35. The man is just a monster of an athletic freak, a literal 1% of humanity. If aliens invade and they're like, show us your greatest humans, we would probably
bring us your greatest warrior.
Bring us your champion. I think a lot of us would pick Bobby Lashley to go bum bum on those aliens, you know?
I like Bobby Lashley's work, and I think he was fantastic in the Elimination Chamber.
Yes.
At Perth. It's just a matter of that. I think their biggest try was trying to make him a heel, and it just did not stick. And it just took so much. They invested so much time in that, and trying to make they made Street Profits turn heel when that wasn't really necessary. And then when it wasn't working, they couldn't get their boos. They couldn't get any reactions that they wanted. They just faded back into being a face a little bit.
You know what was missing? Both Carmelo Hayes and MVP in that group would have actually that would have rounded out that group beautifully. Right. If not Carmelo Hayes, at least MVP in that group would have given them the proper identity of heels, because you've got now the good heel mouthpiece, as opposed to, God damn it, these guys are really cool in suits, I kind of want to root for them, which is what happened with them. But if you put MVP on the mic, you let him do the cooking, I feel like that would have cemented this group as like, okay, these are guys that we need to fear. These are guys that we can't root for. These are guys that we need to boo. But as it was, making Bobby Lashley the mouthpiece of that group, I think was a mistake, because Bobby Lashley's just too revered and respected.
Correct. I mean, even when they had the show in front of the soldiers, that's where they turned him face for that night, because he's an ex-military guy. So you can't, I mean, there's just so many factors.
Poor timing.
Right, more timing. But that's the thing, is like, this dude, he's an overall fantastic package, and he's definitely going to be a great free agent for anyone to put on the promotion. I just think it's a bummer. I think it's two good things here. I think indie wrestling and the indie ecosystem, and alongside with AEW and TNA now, and Impact, I feel that there is not the end of the road for someone as talented as Bobby Lashley. I feel like Bobby Lashley could definitely, like I said, be on TNA and do better. Like he would be someone that we will tune in to watch Bobby wrestle on TNA. It's just kind of a bummer, man, that I think in like the Ricochets, the Bobby Lashleys, even the MVPs, Tamina, I feel that a lot of times when people say the contract didn't re-up, it's because it's not like they're releasing them. They're just not re-signing them. It is what it is. And the good thing is now more than ever, from what I understand, is there's no compete clause, so they could just go right away and start wrestling somewhere else.
It is funny how contracts are such a big deal in the world of professional wrestling, but yet in other sports, when a contract ends, it's like, oh, it's expected that you leave. But
you should,
yeah, or you should, right?
Yourself around.
I feel like I know it's not one-to-one sports, but I feel like this is the only sport where the ending of a contract and it not getting renewed all of a sudden is like,
there's a
Dios
problem.
mío,
Yeah.
like there's
Yeah,
like drama. It's like, no, like the working relationship is over. It's no different than ex-NBA players' contract being up with the Minnesota Timberwolves, and well, like time to go find somewhere else to play basketball or retire or whatever it might be. But it's not this drama that it gets built in wrestling.
Well, not to be like this guy, but
this guy.
I'm not gonna. I'm gonna compare myself to Bobby's situation, and I'm sure. Hey, let me.
All right, folks. Let's listen to Sancho pretend to be the Almighty here for a second. All right, Sancho, tell us about how you're so similar to the Dominator.
There are times when you're working at a place for so long, and I've worked at a place for like Circuit City for so long, where all of a sudden you're just too expensive to hold on to. And so when you get into contract negotiations or you get to that yearly annual review, they give you something that you don't like and you're like, this is not for me, I'm leaving. Or they just let you go, or they let you go because you're just too expensive and they could have someone else slot in your spot for a lot cheaper rate. I think the years of veteran leadership that Bobby has and the amount of mileage he has and all those factors, I think maybe his asking price was too high to re-sign him, and they're like, ooh, we don't have plans for you to re-sign and get that money back, that revenue back, so we're just gonna let you lapse and let you test the market. So it's just a factor of, I think it's, hey, you are owed this amount of money because you've been with the business for so long, we have to give you a higher salary. But hey, we don't see the investment return on that, on giving you that you deserve. So instead, we'll let you go so you could probably get that somewhere else and benefit and continue your career and prosper, and maybe down the road we'll see you again.
Yeah, and that makes sense for everywhere except wrestling, it seems. In wrestling, it's like, what happened? Drama llama ding dong, as my girlfriend Sarah likes to say. But yeah,
does
folks,
she say that? Wait, why did she say that?
Drama llama ding dong?
Up? Yeah, in your daily life,
yes.
Where does drama llama ding dong come up?
She'll be like, Santi, you wouldn't believe what happened at work today. Some serious drama llama ding dong. And then she would tell me about her work drama or whatever it might be. That's how it comes up. But folks, that's Sancho's story as to how Bobby Lashley and the WWE compares to him in Circuit City.
Circuit City. I hated Circuit City, bro. Circuit City was...
Are they still around?
Like, dude, no, of course not. It went Shutter. We were the WCW to the Best Buy of the WWE. We totally were, dude. You would come by and you'd be like, I want this. And you'd just be like...
Hulk Hogan would be like, that's not going to work for you, brother.
No, you would just go, yeah, you should just go to Best Buy. You just go to Best Buy. That's what we would do. Because it was like, where else? I mean, they didn't like that when we would say go to Best Buy, but it's like, to be fair, I worked in the DVD section and the CD section. I was the almighty in that section because you could ask me, do we have? You could ask me, we have this DVD movie, and I could tell you no or yes, without looking in the inventory. I hate it when they ask you, like, could you look it up in the back? I'd be like, no, because I stocked this.
Go to Best Buy.
Go to Best Buy. for your DVD needs.
Oh man, do you watch Slammiversary?
I didn't because I'm solo parenting and I have my boy with me and I couldn't watch the Slammiversary. But did you watch?
Dude,
Slammiversary?
what a show!
I know I missed it.
Okay, I will. I'm gonna say this.
Yes.
They chose the weirdest way to start the show because every match was a banger. Even the Ash by Elegance versus
Jordan
Grace that everybody thought was gonna suck was a banger. The only match that wasn't a banger was their opening match. And not only was it not a banger, it was a match that was like not properly announced for the show that should have been on the pre-show. Matt Hardy versus Dirty Dango was such a it was such a sloppy beginning to an otherwise great show. You'd think you'd want to start with a bang, and they started out with the biggest fart in the wind. And then it just got so much better, man. AJ Francis PCO might be one of my favorite matches of the year. It was wild. It was ridiculous. I loved every second of it.
I just feel that from the highlights from my scene, it was a car wreck.
Dude,
but
it was the funniest car wreck. It was so good. It was so good.
Dude, I wish I saw it because I love the build that they have, and I hope AJ Francis got his comeuppance because he was heinous.
Dude, he was awful. Yeah, he lost. He lost.
Good.
PCO got the victory. Good. And then Steph DeLander came out and proposed to PCO with what looked like a ring with a butt plug on it. I'm not even kidding. I'm pretty sure it was a butt plug. You should look it up.
I'm not gonna ruin my search for it. Is that safe search on or off, my friend?
Well, just look it up on my TikTok. You'll see the butt plug.
Incognito or no? Wait, what?
It's on the TikTok. It's on the TikTok. The Speedball Mike Bailey versus Mustafa Ali was an absolute banger. Did you see the stuff with the Montreal Screwjob? How they were gonna redo it, and then Earl Hebner's like, "No, I'm not doing that." You can hear him say, "I'm not doing that shit again."
Good old Earl, dude.
The main event was wild. A weird choice for Joe Hendry to not win. I still think you got the hottest guy in the business right now. I'm shocked you don't want to put the title on him unless it's because they know he's on his way out to WWE.
I think so.
But then also have him be the one that eliminates the world champion Moose was odd, only for him to immediately get eliminated. It was some weird choices for sure, but the match was a banger, the 6-way match.
It's a heel turn for Josh Alexander, though.
It was a great heel turn. It worked. It worked. Josh Alexander, I hate you because of that, what you did. It was fantastic. But yeah, Jordan Grace and Ash by Elegance was maybe the shock of the night with how good Ash got, because I think a lot of people just by de facto believe that she's garbage during her time as Dana Brooke.
Dude, Dana Brooke was starting to do some good things before she got let
in NXT. Go. I agree.
Yeah.
And I feel like TNA has given her the ability to finally let loose and show the world that she's not garbage like people believe that she was, because she was a treat. Like, genuinely, I was very, very pleasantly surprised with how good she was.
I feel it's because her body type that she had at WWE limited her in-ring ability. Don't you think? Because she was going for a bodybuilder type power move strong set. And that looked great for that era that she was in, because she was competing with the fallout from the Divas, right? So I just feel like Dana Brooke never found her place at the WWE because she was trying to be something she's not. So maybe this Ash character is more in her wheelhouse.
It's working.
Ash by Elegance.
And I love that. Man, her mouthpiece is so good.
Right. He's so good.
The concierge, man, so good. He's great. Overall, Slammiversary was a hell of a show. Like, fantastic show.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, remove the Hardy match. I don't know why that opened.
Well, 2 ex-WWE guys. I mean, try to get you in. But my thing I wanted to say is, so you mentioned Joe Hendry possibly going to NXT. So why not have? I think the reason why they didn't want to do that because they didn't want their TNA champion to be on NXT like that.
Could be. I don't know.
Because if he's on NXT as a TNA champion, Joe Hendry already won clean on NXT, right?
Yes.
So would it be different if the TNA champion wins clean on NXT, though? I think so. There's something to be said that's a little different, right?
It's a bit more of a message, I would say.
Right. it's a little bit more. I think the option was, do we allow Joe Hendry to play in NXT more without being champion? Yes, they're more willing to maybe let him lose, maybe to let him win, or WWE's more willing to let him win, and then TNA is more willing to let him lose. Versus, let's say, if like Nick Namath is never going to go to NXT. I don't think
so either. I will say, I think you hit it there. I think if Joe Hendry is the TNA champion, I think that writing and booking is handcuffed in terms of what they can do with him in terms of wins and losses.
Yeah, right. He can't be like the speed champion and not show up without
right. Because as the TNA champion, you can't have him beat any of the major NXT names,
right?
And I think the boys from Gallus fall as major NXT names, which is who he's feuding with. And also, if he's the TNA champion, you can't lose either to just like the regular guys from NXT or even known NXT guys. I feel like it's a rock and hard place if you were to put the title on him. If, like you said, the intention is to continue to let him rock and roll over in NXT.
Is this another New Japan and AEW situation where Tony Khan just siphoned all of the great talent from New Japan? Is that what's going to happen with TNA? Because, okay, out of the TNA guys from that performed at Slammiversary, who can go over to WWE? I could think Joe Hendry,
Moose,
and I could think Moose,
Josh
Alexander, and already you're like stripping away the top, and the only people that probably won't go over is former WWE guys.
See, I don't think so. I look, I feel like it's a very different situation because Tony Khan raiding the New Japan locker room was actually kind of necessary to bolster the AEW locker room. When I look at the WWE locker room, the WWE locker room has NXT to bolster itself up. WWE is in a beautiful place where they don't have to go out to the independent circuit to try and bring people. Sometimes it's such a special talent like a Julia or a Stephanie Vaquer. Absolutely. But at any moment, it's like, hey, we need another top guy. We got an Obafemi for you, ready to go. And he's right from the WWE system. We just did that with Braun Breaker. We just did that with Ilya Dragunov. We just did that with Tiffany Stratton. When I look at guys like Moose, Josh Alexander, who are in their primes, I feel like those could be guys that, yeah, they could be the Stephanie Becker and the Julia, but WWE will never need to absolutely do a coup and raid TNA to bolster their lineup because it's already so stacked and they have their own feeding system. AEW never that's one of AEW's biggest problems is that they don't have the proper feeding system. They kind of do now with Ring of Honor, but they aren't utilizing it in that way as good as NXT is to the main roster of WWE. I just don't think that WWE is in need to raid the TNA locker room unless it's like a gem, right? And I think that because of popularity, Joe Hendry is a gem.
One thing that I find interesting, and I don't know if you agree with me, is that when a TNA talent appears on NXT, it's just a different level of presentation that just makes the TNA star feel different, like they're slightly elevated. Like the Joe Hendry entrance feels much more polished.
Sure.
His entrance on NXT, like the camera angles, the precision to him, the lighting feels different. They just feel like, they belong in that world. Not to say that TNA is not there. I just feel that the TNA presentation, either be lack of cameras or lack of, positioning or just lack of the amount of manpower they could have as a production. It's just interesting to see that Joe Hendry's image just keeps getting elevated and elevated to the point where when Cody Rhodes was leading a partner, Kevin Owens was the choice, but people were like, Joe Hendry could be the guy
right?
who could
Isn't that
show
cool
up.
that people were thinking that? And then, it was Kevin Owens.
Well, you can't have the Bloodline destroy Joe Hendry.
That'd be wild, though. That'd be wild.
It'd be wild. But no, I like TNA, and what I've enjoyed so far from this relationship of TNA and WWE, I think that it's worked more so for TNA, where I am watching more TNA than I ever have before.
Yeah, me too.
And I find interesting as well that Jordan Grace saying there were supposed to be more surprises, but due to the blue screen of death that happened with airlines, that a lot of people didn't show up. And I think that could have been an AJ AJ Styles.
Ooh,
But of course, he's in Japan.
he's in Japan.
Have you seen those things that they were doing in Japan with Io and oh god, dude, they look so good.
Yeah.
It blows my mind that we're at the point that because of Triple H, that WWE is willing to let their stars go else places. And I begin to think in Santi. I begin knocking
what are
around
you
the old
pondering?
John Cena's gonna break the forbidden door.
I would love, dude. John Cena, Joe Hendry would break the freaking internet, and you know that Cena has to be thinking that, right?
Cena could do anything.
Literally whatever he wants.
If one of the top stars in the pro wrestling world says this is my last year, are you gonna tell him no? Are you gonna say that MJF and John Cena talking to each other at the Iron Claw world premiere, that there's not a conversation about how can we wrestle each other? There's you don't think John Cena wants to have that match with MJF?
Bro, I think anything's on the table with Cena only.
Make-A-Wish, it's going to be a charity thing. I'm telling you, MJF versus John Cena, Make-A-Wish Foundation, all proceeds go to Make-A-Wish. What are the WWE going to tell John Cena no?
Yeah, right. You're gonna look at the no to the sick kids. Is that what you're gonna do, Triple H? Huh? Is that what you're gonna do?
I mean, I just think anything's on the table with the last ride of John Cena.
I can't wait.
We're gonna be in for a good year, man. It's gonna be a good year. And who knows, dude? Maybe Netflix, the deal of Netflix being on there's a lot less red tape to get a MJF on Netflix.
That'd be wild. Shall we? Bring this bitch home. You know, hang on. Let me turn on the graphics department.
Yeah, turn on the graphics department.
I'm turning on the graphics. All right, let's go. New heat order.
We had a little malfunction. The blue screen of death happened to our graphics department as well. But as you can see, our top 10 for last week was Zelina Vega at 10, Gunther at 9, Drew Mack at 8, LA Knight at 7, Bloodline at 6, Judgment Day at 5, Creed and Gable at 4, Damien at 3, the White Six at 2, and Rhea Ripley at 1. So after SmackDown, after Monday Night Raw, how do you feel the new heat order? And again, if you're new to the show, I appreciate you making it this long. You're a special one, which means you should sub to the YouTube channel and maybe consider our Patreon. Our buzz and the hype of the new heat order just determines on how excited we are to see them again. If they didn't appear on TV, that's why they're not on this list. I mean, AKA Roman Reigns hasn't been on TV in a while. He's never been on new heat order since we brought it back. So, Santi, any bids for number 1?
Okay, I'm going to throw out a couple names. I'm going to throw out Logan Paul.
Number 1?
Well, look, as a conversation piece. I don't know if it's number 1. And in there, LA Knight as well.
Don't do that to me. All right, I hold sacrilege, prestige with this new heat order. I will not let the glazed over eyes of my love for LA Knight ruin this pristine document.
I'm just saying, just names to talk about.
You're just dangling that for me. Look, I appreciate Logan and LA Knight, and Logan roasted LA Knight, but I don't think that is the must talk of the town, as you would say.
Number 1 then? Would it be Punk for being cleared?
My problem with Punk, and correct me if you think I'm looking too far into it, his catchphrase of "there's no better place to be than on a Monday night in blank city," kind of lame.
Okay.
For Punk.
It is,
right?
It's not very punkish, that's for sure.
It's not very punkish. It's not a very cult of personality. So I think that knocks him down a peg or two.
That catchphrase?
Yes, it's not Punk. When he did it at Green Bay, I was like,
yeah, you're from Chicago, bro. You're supposed to hate that area.
Exactly. You know that sound, that like the foghorn sound?
Yeah.
When everything's something, yeah. When everything's something stinky appears on TV for the cartoons.
Yes, I'm aware.
Yeah, you are, because you've been wearing that shirt for 10 days in a row.
No, I haven't. We do laundry every 2 days here. Stop.
Like when we zoom in on it, like in SpongeBob, it's all like crusted
up.
It's like, yeah, there's like a hair in it that's coming through the thread. Ew, brother. Ew. All right, number 1, I think has to go to Rhea and Liv.
Well, you can't give them both number one.
I'm gonna give it to Liv then.
Okay. So Liv and Rhea, number 1 and 2.
Yes, because Liv actually broke my heart to see her cry.
Okay.
You laughed, but then you go, oh.
I laughed Cobra Kai style.
Dude, she was so
like, really?
heartbroken.
You joined Cobra Kai right when the Sakai Taikai is going to begin? You think I'm going to believe that?
You're such a nerd. I like that in Cobra Kai, the world revolves around karate.
I know.
And they had that brawl at Christmas at the Russo house. And then they're like, let's call the cops. No, this has to be settled at the Cobra Kai All Valley tournament. Oh, God. Dude, and what a great villain for, what's his face? Kreese. Not Kreese, but the other guy. Who's
Silver?
the guy with
John Silver?
Yeah, dude. Not John Silver.
Oh,
Is it John Silver? You're talking about the food place? John Silver?
Wait, it's hang on, Silver, Cobra. Keep going.
So
Terry Silver.
John Silver. The fisherman? Number 1, Liv Morgan. Number 2, Rhea Ripley. Number 3.
Who's number 2 hours 3? In, folks?
Who's number 3? This is where I could go with CM Punk and Rollins and Drew. So
let's do that in that order, I would say.
Oh, okay. You put Seth Rollins over Drew? Come on.
No. Punk, Drew, Seth.
Okay. Do you think Punk wrestles before SummerSlam? I don't think so.
No. At this point, the attraction is seeing him wrestle singles for the first time as well.
I am so scared to see him do anything because I think he's going to get hurt on something. Like when
Derek Rose going for a layup.
Yeah, when he went for, he ran into the reps when he was charging after Drew McIntyre Monday. I was like,
yeah, me too, dude. It's like, dude, that's fragile. Fragile Punk. Isn't that what Ryback would call him?
The big guy.
The big guy, Fragile Punk.
All
Fragile Phil. That's what he called him. Fragile Phil.
Jeez. I still believe that Seth Rollins is unnecessary to be at SummerSlam. I mean, it's too many cooks.
Okay.
Too many cooks. Here's the list so far. For those people that are like, I get lost.
There you go. We graphics department, baby.
That's what they sell like. Oh, I get lost. Number 6. I feel like every YouTube comment should be in the voice of the fish from SpongeBob. Then it'll make it funnier and much more enjoyable. Who is number 6, my friend? I mean, we go Damien here. I mean, Damien just straight up block.
Damien and Gunther, honestly, both of them.
Yeah. 6 and 7.
I would go Damien Gunther.
Yes.
In that order.
I like how Damien tried to apologize. Like he realized, he put out a tweet almost in today's terms. He put out a tweet and he wanted to apologize, but instead he just doubled down on it. Good for you. And Gunther. He's like, I came out here to apologize. You are bums. All the people of Quahog. That's what he literally said. The people of Quahog, you stink. Oh, screw you, Macho Man. Number 8.
I think this is where we can put Logan Paul LA Knight. Throwing you some breadcrumbs.
No, I don't want this
Fine, just Logan Paul then.
No.
Just Logan Paul.
Whoa, slow down.
Hang on.
I think the Wyatt 6 goes here. That's what I'm trying to say. The Wyatt 6 and the dude, Julius Creed and Brutus Creed and Gable remind me of old school Mid-South type of wrestlers.
Okay, I think it should be then, and you did this to yourself, at 8, 9, 10, Wyatt 6, Gable, Logan Paul. LA Knight is off the list because you talk too much. Yeah.
You talk too much. Wyatt 6. What is the Creed brothers get? Was it New Alpha? You want to call it New Alpha?
Let's call them New Alpha, sure.
People in my comments were wanting to call them the Varsity. Kind of interesting. You think Chase U ends up with a feud with Chad Gable?
I don't think Chase U ever makes it to the main roster as a gimmick.
Fair enough. And Logan Paul. Okay, just because we should at least entertain or discuss this. Any room for any other wrestlers here in this list?
Well, we just have Beyond the Bubble, right?
Yeah, but like I'm talking about like the
Anyone we
Baileys, the
miss?
Nias, the Tiffys, the Biancas, the Jades, the
No.
Albi, and the Party Girls. I feel like the women's division definitely is in a holding pattern because they're just like you talk about SmackDown. They cannot have non-title feuds take airtime, unfortunately, because they have business with the belt. And I think the Nia, Tiffy, and Bailey thing just doesn't do anything for me because I don't know. I feel like Bailey as a face does not throw it down harder when she's a heel. You know, she has more juice as a heel.
Throw it down harder?
Yeah, throw it down harder.
I've never heard that terminology.
Well, Nia throws it down harder on Bailey because she said BBL Bailey.
That's true.
The heel Bailey would have said something better, but she can't. She says just babyface, dumb, generic stuff. But she did call her big and she did call her big and clumsy, which was crazy.
No, actually, in the promo, she said, "You're not dangerous because you're big and strong. It's because you're big." And I'm like, what?
Clumsy and clumsy.
Yes.
All right, top star in NXT. Who's cooking for you?
I mean, I think it has to be Nick Nemeth, new TNA World Champion. I think it has to be.
Oh, you're talking about TNA? Okay.
Didn't you just ask that?
No, I said NXT.
Oh, yes. Oh, sorry. TNA, Nick Nemeth. NXT.
Mm-hmm. You're going to say Joe Hendry?
I'm going to say Joe Hendry.
I believe you are glazing over Joe Hendry. Mm-hmm. Look at you. Look at you. Look at you now.
AEW.
Look at you now.
We got to go with MJF.
MJF with a banger. I know we didn't talk about it here in this podcast because it happened literally randomly in Saturday night. It feels like, or was it Saturday?
No, it was the Wednesday. It was the Wednesday. It was after we recorded, so it's literally an entire week.
It's an entire week. That's why, with your support, we could definitely cover more wrestling. Yeah, just quickly, is this something that you could definitely show other people? It will have a historic place, but it's a bummer that it happened on a Dynamite with a week buildup. An hour-long wrestling match should have a month buildup to it.
That's such a treat, man. Just that like an hour match that was just so good.
Right, and you could just pull it out of the like if you go into the future and be like, give me a MJF Ospreay, like, oh, dude, Collision episode 250.
Of course,
that's the one,
that's
right?
the one.
But in the context of the buildup for Wembley, it's hard to say like where does it belong, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it just literally came out of nowhere. But I enjoyed that match, and you know what? Iron Man matches are not that. I know it wasn't billed as an Iron Man match; it was just a 60-minute time limit. 60-minute matches are not easy. The only ones I could think of that I enjoyed more is Brett and Sean, because Brett and Sean always could go for 2-3 hours, like easy. But Brett and Sean Iron Man matches are amazing, but I've never seen a 60-minute time limit match before hold my attention as much as that. And it's kind of crazy that it ended with a clothesline, though. But yeah, MJF. Any thoughts on that? You said it was a treat.
It was a very good match. That's the thing. It's so long ago in the conversation of the world of professional wrestling that it's tough to really say anything that hasn't already been said. This match weirdly got a lot of the tribalists out talking,
sure,
like, which was bizarre. It's like just let good wrestling be good wrestling and let people enjoy it. Shut up.
Yeah, I think where people get in trouble with that is they undercut what their even their fandom of what they're doing, or you create expectations for yourself where you don't end up enjoying anything new.
Yes.
Like if you're an AEW person, sure, great. You're just gonna then say nothing's gonna ever be like MJF and Ospreay, so I'm never gonna watch anything else. But on the flip side, if you're like a WWE person, then you're gonna be like, nothing's ever gonna be like Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. I'm never gonna watch anything else that's gonna have to do with it. So it's like you're just doing a disservice to yourself.
Right.
Like we literally talked about Slammiversary with PCO and AJ Francis. If you told that to AEW guy, they'd be like, eh. If you told that to WWE guy, you'd be like, top dollar. But someone that knows wrestling and then enjoys wrestling as much as we do, loves wrestling, understands like there is a place in this world for all types of wrestling.
All of it.
And PCO and AJ Francis banged.
Absolutely.
Was a banger.
A banger.
All right, folks, that is your new heat order. And I know we didn't. There's people out there that want Sheamus on this list. There's people out there that wants a Bronson Reed. Maybe they want a Pete Dunne. I'm sorry. You could feel it though, right? Wait. You could feel it though, right? When you're doing your content creating, you're uploading clips. You're like, I know this match is getting important, the Sheamus feud, this angle, but it's not as important as uploading me of Liv Morgan's little, right?
It's true.
Right? You're like, true. I have to get this Wyatt 6 Abby the Witch video out. I love you, Sheamus.
Dom getting his face licked is what's gonna pay the bills.
I gotta get this out. Sheamus, you're amazing, but you know,
is what it is.
It is what it is, man.
Let's bring it home, folks. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Wrestling is Cool. Sancho, what you working on this week?
Well, I want to give y'all an update. I'm actually going on a vacation for a couple of weeks in Los Angeles. I lived there for 15 years, so I'm going to go back, just hang out for a bit. I will have watch-alongs. I'm going to try to do watch-alongs for SmackDown and Raw while I'm over there. The big thing is I will have a watch-along for SummerSlam because I'm going to take my laptop and everything over there. I'm just trying to find a place to stream it, so hopefully that does happen. Now, with that, I may or may not be an all Wrestling is Cool pod. I'm going to work that out. My goal is to be, but definitely you're going to see me more sparingly around for until mid-August. Much needed vacation. It's hard for me to go on vacation because I like to grind. So, you know, that's where I'll be. Follow me on the Instagram at Sancho West and the X. And
yes, sir. That being said, not skipping a beat here. We're still going to be going hard and fast.
It's like the WWE, dude. You know?
Sancho's a spoke on the wheel, and the wheel's gonna keep turning. Yeah, well, we'll see. We might you guys might see a couple of guests here covering for Sancho for a little while, but we'll sort that out. But folks, thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Wrestling is Cool podcast. Before we head out, a special thank you goes out to our $15 patrons who are our producers of this show. And as a perk, they get their name read out here as a producer. So thank you to 2022 Benjamin. I just want Santi to read mine first. You screwed up. The guy with numbers came up first. You idiot. You moron. But thank you for your support. AC Big Mac, Adam McLeod, Adrian Liu, Akira Kemp, Alex Reigel, Alan Crockett, Andy Taylor, Anita Maxwin, Austin Weaver, author LM Wittenhagen, B Nation Betancourt, Bard Rushton, Ben Calloway, Ben Not Ben, B Hostile, Big Poppy Sasquatch, Blake, Brady Keaton, Brandon Cannell, Brandon Shire, Braden, Bryce, Buxo, Caleb Wins, Caleb Wood, Cameron Noel, Canada is a horrible country, Carter, CP, Chupapi, Chickpea Beans, Christian Billick, Christian Ortega, Cody Cook, Colin Roach, Connor Williamson, Crunchy Tomato, Dangling Left Testicle, Dar, DJ Broadnax, Drew Ashford, Dumsky, Isach, Tiny Wang. Nice. He spelled Thai like Thailand. Anyways. Fish Reel, Forever Wrestling, Gamerscape, Garrett Coons, Gavin Alves, George Valdez, Gilbert Deans, Goated Sean, Harley McClure, Hawaiian Rick Boogs, Hayden Thornton, Heigels Venier Helderson, I Love Milwaukee, Issa David, It's a Mista, I'm Gonna Nut in Santi's Protein Shake, Jackson Conley, Jacob Marcel, Jacob Penna, Jacob Saffel, James Abel, James Brian Belugo, Jassim Alcazar, Javier Arenas, Javier Rodriguez, Jean, Jennifer Johnson, Jeremy C. Moreau, Joe Velez, John Cena, John Cena, Diagio, I keep saying your name wrong, and I'm going to continue to, Jonathan Daly, Jordan Lynch, Jorge Caballero, Joshua Warwick, Juan Verduzco, Judson Daniels, Juice Man Jeremy, Justin Perkins, Caden Rivers, Keontarius Jackson, Kevin Coughlin, Ken Dean, Lil Shifu, Liz, Mako Mac Gaming, Malik Graham, Manly Man, Manu, Manuel Narufo, Marcus Gonzalez, Mason Kirk, Mason Lott, Methuselah Honeysuckle, Michael Glass, Michael Walker, Muhammad Akram El Madawi, Muhammad Al Banai, Monte Moore, Mountain Paws, Mabusher Khan, Nicholas Kyle, Nighthawk, Papaya King, Patrick Gripaldi, Phoenix, Preston is Cool, Prince Vegeta, Puerto Rican Rick Boogs. I think that's a new one. Rashad Walton, Reaper God, Reese Dad, Ricky Dutcher, Roberto Dickbutt, Rocky B, Rodolfo Reyes, Roey Levy, Ryan Williams, Riles, Sancho eats corn the long way, Sancho Mania will run wild, Santi Zap, Stinky Toes, Saudi Rick Boog, Scoop Dub Nation, Scream Scott, Serenity, Shane, Sherry, Silver Football, Solo So Fat We Should Call Him a Duo, Spencer Schnartz, Squishy, Star Wars Lover G, Stephen Rhodes, Stephen Amay, Stucky, Sullivan Mayer, page 4 Sancho. Look at all this support. Wow. Super Malachi Galaxy, the Gaming Freak YouTube, the B-Meister, the Joe Man, the Kingslayer, the McBro, Tim, Tobias Burnett, Tom Lehman, Trent Head, Two Crown, Walker, Wesley Simpson, Whip One, Zan Frank, Javier Izquierdo, Yao Parta, Zapola, and Zerg Zito. Before you know, we'll be at page 5, Sancho. Thank you all so much for your support. Thank you so much for helping us do this as much as we do. Take care, everybody. Be wonderful people. I'll see you next week.